My name is John Pasfield, and the title of this reading will be Shakespeare and Cleopatra, Video 26, the last chapter. This is my novel, Shakespeare and Cleopatra. My life is not my own. Cleopatra's dead, hovering between life and the afterlife. By some strange process, she becomes aware that a playwright is telling her story. Who is this Shakespeare? What does he know about her? What kind of Cleopatra does he intend to create? He seems to be unaware of her presence, but perhaps if she talks to him, as he writes, she can exercise some control over the story of a life that she fears is no longer her own. Well, you and I know who William Shakespeare is. She will learn his name after a couple of chapters. Let me hold it here. But she won't know anything more about him than that. She won't know what kind of playwright he is or what kind of play he's writing. Is she going to kind of destroy her reputation, her legend, her image in the mind of future playgoers or not? You and I know he's writing Antony and Cleopatra. She doesn't know what in the world he's writing as his play. In an earlier video presentation, I read chapter 1 of the novel, Shakespeare and Cleopatra, My Life is Not My Own, in order as printed in the book. As an introduction to that reading, I mentioned that in my video readings, I usually isolate one image layer, one image arc in the mind of the main character as the topic of my reading and explain how that particular single topic interacts by parallel and contrast with the imagery of the life that the main character is living through and reviewing. However, for this chapter, chapter 16, the last chapter of the novel, I'm going to do the same as I did for chapter 1. I'm going to read word for word the images as they are printed on the page. What I will read is the last chapter of thought in the mind of the main character, Cleopatra, as she goes through the experience of attempting to influence Shakespeare in the writing and the performance of the play which he's writing about her, which is Antony and Cleopatra. So let's have a look then at chapter 16, the final chapter of thought. So these are all the images coming together for Cleopatra, out of which she hopes to make some sense. Standing outside the theater, the Globe, the Wooden O, the crowd pours through the doors at the end of the play. Who's there? Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold thyself. They don't bump into me as I stand here. I'm still a queen after all, but it's obvious that I'm not visible to their eyes. If they journey in opposite directions, they will meet for sure. A glowing candle, a ratty pen, a dish of ink, a basket of almost nothings beside a door, an alchemist digging down for gold. Do you think that you alone had already made yourself immortal? Or is it something for which you needed Shakespeare too? Something perhaps that only the two of you, Shakespeare Cleopatra, Cleopatra Shakespeare, could possibly do? A theater by a river, a bare platform for a stage, a language one can barely understand. I had hoped to monitor the chatter, listen to the gossip as they emerge, but I seem to have lost my understanding of the English tongue. He has given his empire up to a whore. I had hoped I might stand inside with the playwright, hear what he, above all, would have to say. Perhaps his would be the one voice that I could still hear. All on earth have been blessed by Isis. All of Egypt has been so blessed. Isis has blessed Cleopatra. Our queen has blessed us all. In turn, Cleopatra is Isis on earth in flesh and blood. Many lights were suspended and displayed everywhere at once. They were ordered and positioned at such intricate angles to one another and in such patterns like squares and circles that it was a sight of beauty and a delight to the viewer. 2 candles burn in the darkness. Taking flight to a foreign land, captured your essence, understand the language, struggles to speak our words, hoping to become I have no idea, so much of my own, too far away. Why such concern? Barely see my fingers. I'm forced to take the bridge, not physically, as I have no corporeal presence at all. I simply find myself floating along with the crowd. The mist holds many secrets. What do these faces have to say? Why is it so hard to tell? Some are laughing, a lady is crying. What does this mean? What from the Cape can you discern at sea? Are they laughing at parts of the play? Is she crying at the loss of Antony, or perhaps of me? Or are they thinking of other things as they make their way? What is it then to be a mortal? What is it then to live and to breathe? What is the breeze that trims the sail and guides the keel? What is the wind that tramples the flowers and breaks the boughs? What is the groove in which the river runs to the sea? Standing outside the theater, walking across the bridge, 2 candles on either side of the world. An inmate of that prison, a severed Roman arm, stricken faces and waving arms, of confusion and distortion, has to be paid for. I held him under the water, a slight bump at times, to make that decision, to resemble a painting you have created yourself. I turned and looked back at the theater, a little round building on a hill. It looks quite small from where I'm standing now. It hides and then reveals. Oh, there's my playwright, my William Shakespeare. No doubt I'll have cause to long remember that name. She makes hungry where most she satisfies. He's chatting in the doorway. Are these actors? Oh, how can I tell? Without the makeup and the costumes, they don't look like themselves at all. Blocks of granite lay lashed by waves, a flower which doesn't need a seed, a row of teeth concealed below the water. Follow the bubble where it leads you. Follow the bubble whenever you can. Follow the bubble, but do not seize it. It will burst and leave no footprints, just a wink, and it will be gone. The wicked uncle disappeared. The uplifting eagle flew away. The denied boy sat in his rightful place. In his hand, he held the forever stone. Do you feel that history has captured your essence, or is that something that only literature can do? Will the people of the future know the essential you? Who was going to tell the pharaoh? No one could locate the entrance to the royal pyramid. The old and wise from the pharaoh's youth were dead and gone, and not one old fellow had bequeathed a diagram. Now she waits to hear what posterity will say. I was a woman in search of a man. When Caesar was stabbed, my course was clear. I was instantly in search of another man. I needed an escort just to walk across the street. Oh, I was queen over all of Egypt, but Egypt rested on the shields of Roman guards. I needed a man, I needed a Roman, and I needed one soon. And now, this playwright is the only man I know. A playwright scribbling in a room, a squeaky boy in an ill-fitting wig, a performance on an English afternoon. Good stories are spontaneous. They don't need seeds, so if there is a seed, a story's all the easier to believe, though the seed be never planted in the ground. A good story can water itself. It invents and nurtures its own bloom, and it easily chokes out nature's paltry affair. Oh, I would like to speak to him, to tell him what I think of our play. Perhaps I'll be telling him what the others are telling him now. What country, friends, is this? I move up and stand in front of him. He continues talking to his friends. A mist gathers around them as they talk. What is it then to be mortal? What is it then to live and to breathe? Why this cycle of human suffering? A world in agony? A world in flames? Why does sunshine only last until it rains? The Shakespearean main character's thoughts carry further than those of others because that character sees more and deeper than they. The Shakespearean character thinks a thing to the end in a more intense experience of reality. Cleopatra is the most complex and in many respects the most astonishing woman Shakespeare ever created. An inner fuel keeps them ever burning. What does this mean? Manufacturing images, her life had changed, towards which one swims, congenial I presume, the worst as well as the best, reaching inside my person, unarmed himself, what I always knew snakes would whisper. Are people talking about the play, all the great actors and all the great scenes? I can't tell, as I don't understand the words. It hides safe harbors. I no longer know my memories, what is real and what is not. The information that was as water is now as wine. Age cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite variety. My blood flowed in you. Your blood flowed in me. Our fused blood flowed into the squeaky boy. The single essence of the three of us held the stage. So who now owns the story of Helen? Hers is a story that is made of putty or clay. A writer can mold it into any shape or form. It belongs to all the future Homers and Virgils. Beneath the ink, they'll be writing about themselves. Hoping to get to talk with Shakespeare, watching Shakespeare fade in the enveloping mist. Two candles far apart with a single flame. Floating amid the words, heightened by cosmetics, he words me, a story of contentious gods, points to his head, just the beginning, scene after scene after scene, tastes like brackish water, the last drops of blood, know what it is. The play crowd blends into the bridge crowd, buyers and sellers haggle and shout, hard to tell who is at the play and who is not. It hides rocks and shoals. You cannot hear me, can you? I am neither corporeal nor ocular to you. There is no way I can thank you for our play. We are such stuff as dreams are made on. Now I can only see your face, your mouth, your scruffy beard, and your eyes. Soon you will be as far from me as I am from you. The definition of a self I take to be the infinite quest that will continue in the afterlife. I get tired of people telling stories. Only once in a while does a story enchant the ear. That's the story that drives the others from the stage. A drop of blood dripping from a sunbeam, a question of fiction or of fact, a bubble that floats in the air and on the tide. So, what is the meaning of the life of Shakespeare? What does the story of Cleopatra seem to mean? Why should your two names be linked for all of time? I have no idea where I'm going. Life is meeting and parting and meeting and parting again. It seems to also be that way in the afterlife. She's a most triumphant lady. I am Cleopatra, queen of Egypt. I must cling to what I know myself to be. I can barely see my fingers through this mist. And that's the end of chapter 16, the final chapter of the thoughts of Cleopatra as she goes through this experience. As I said in my introduction, every word of chapter 16, as is every word of the novel, is an image in the mind of the main character. And as I also said in my introduction, the human being thinks in layers of imagery. Each of these layers is a layer of information, which, when compared to other layers of information, becomes imagery that generates potential meaning in the mind of the main character. So this chapter, chapter 16, is the final chapter of thought in the mind of the main character concerning her experience of being close to Shakespeare as he writes, rehearses, and has his play performed. In this chapter, Cleopatra considers the culminating images which this situation has caused her to consider. Broadly speaking, there are a number of layers of imagery in the mind. Number one, the present moment situation, which in chapter 16 has Cleopatra standing outside the Globe Theatre, unable to talk to Shakespeare as he chats with some of the actors from the play. Number two, a memory, in which the same force that placed Cleopatra in the present moment situation has caused her to go to the Globe Theatre and watch the female characters of 4 different Shakespeare plays go through crises in their relationships. Number three, a number of imaginary image arcs, creative on the part of Cleopatra's mind, such as the story of 2 people who walk around the earth in opposite directions, of a boy whose uncle tried to deny him his rightful heritage, of a pharaoh who caused a magnificent tomb to be built, and of an old fishmonger who told her story in the marketplace of Alexandria. Along with these imaginary creations, Cleopatra reviews a story of the goddess Isis, the story of her sister Arsinoe, the story of Helen of Troy. There are many other layers of imagery from many categories in the mind of Cleopatra as she attempts to make meaning of this experience. One of the most intriguing aspects of this image evaluation exercise is that Cleopatra cannot be sure whether she's been able to communicate with Shakespeare at any time during the writing, rehearsal, and performance of the play that now bears her name, Cleopatra. The method by which any human being attempts to generate meaning in the mind is by juxtaposing layers of imagery, of image arcs, and then by comparison and contrast to attempt to see logic in the interaction of these images. That Cleopatra has many layers of imagery. That Cleopatra has many layers of imagery in this culminating chapter of thought makes her, I believe, a very complex character. However, I would remind the reader that this is a novel, and that although I, the writer, can include many layers of imagery in a chapter of thought, the complexity of a novel, even a poetic novel, is as nothing compared to the layers of imagery that are interacting in the minds of everyday humans at any particular nanosecond of their lives. So a novel can be very complex, but the human mind is even more complex, much more complex, vastly more complex than any work of fiction. All the novel art form can do, and the poetic novel does it best, is to suggest the complexity of the workings of the human mind. So this is my novel, Shakespeare and Cleopatra, My Life is Not My Own. It's available on Amazon, where there's more information. It's available on my publisher's website, roxmillspress.com, where there's more information as well. And on my website, there are 2 free books, the Planning Notebook and the Journal, both of which I wrote while I was planning, writing, and polishing this novel. So if you're interested, have a look at johnpassfield.ca for more information and thoughts about all aspects of writing. And lastly, I'll say thank you for watching this video.